Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am Jennifer Hall, Executive Director of the Ann Arbor Housing Commission. I will be presenting the budget for the Housing Commission as it relates to the city's budget process. This first slide, just an overview reminder of the programs and services that we provide. We have a affordable housing program where we own and manage properties. We have a very large voucher program that are used in the private sector. And we have a family self-sufficiency and home ownership program. And most of our funding, as well as our operations, are actually funded outside of the city's budget process. We recently took a look back at our organization and looked at the last 10 plus years to try to understand both the changes to our agency as well as plan for the future. We had experienced tremendous growth since 2011. We've increased the number of apartments that we own and manage from 355 in 2011 to 548 in 2022. The largest increase was the acquisition of Lurie Terrace, but we also added 58 apartments through our redevelopment of our public housing for sites we did demolition and new construction. We have also grown our voucher program by applying for and getting awarded specialty vouchers from HUD. We increased from 1,469 vouchers in 2011 to 2,212 vouchers in 2022. As our operations have grown, our annual operating budget has also grown from $13 million in 2011 to $31 million in 2022. This budget includes significant increases in funding from the city for tenant mental health and supportive services, currently paid for through the county mental health millage rebate. We received $60,000 from the city in 2011, and we are now receiving this year $591,000 that actually passes through our agency directly to our nonprofit partners. The city continues to provide roughly level general fund operating support of about $160,000 this year compared to $154,000 in 2011. However, the city also provides HR and IT support, which has grown since 2011 as our staffing has grown. The rest of the line items in this budget are either rents from tenants, rent subsidies, or HUD funding primarily. In 2011, we had 21 employees and we now have 41 employees. I wanted to share this information to show both the growth of our organization and the critical role the city plays in supporting the addition of affordable housing and supportive services to the community. I also want folks to understand that this work does require people to implement it, whether that is on the administrative and financial side or to provide direct property management and maintenance to our properties. So as we develop more properties, we will need to continue to grow our staff to manage that process and that product. On the development side, we have raised over $73 million from a variety of sources to reinvest in the buildings that we own and manage. We have a great leveraging ratio for city contributions. Excuse me. The city has provided about 6% of the funding of that $73 million, and the DDA has provided about 3% of that funding so far. The largest funding source is actually low-income housing tax credits, which provides about 60% of the funding for our projects that we've developed over this time period. We actually have a really exciting new development that we just heard from HUD in January of 2022, that the Ann Arbor Housing Commission has been designated through a competitive process as a moving to work agency under cohort number 4, which is specifically about designing and studying creative ideas to increase landlord participation in our voucher programs. The goal is to increase our lease up for our voucher participants, particularly given the difficult housing market in Ann Arbor. One of the most exciting benefits of this designation is that we will be given greater regulatory flexibility in how we design our program, and we will have more flexible funding to cover our administrative costs to manage our program and to be more creative. To help tenants to successfully lease up, we can now use our HUD funding instead of funding from our nonprofit to provide security deposits, application fees, and other essential items like household items when people move in, particularly if they're homeless. We can also use our HUD funding to provide housing search assistance to tenants and to implement technological improvements. In addition, on the landlord side, we can use our HUD funds to provide incentives to landlords to participate in our program and to mitigate potential losses, such as paying for short-term vacancies while units are being repaired between voucher tenants. We're super excited about this designation, and we'll be spending the next 6 to 8 months talking to our current program participants, landlords, and the community about what types of changes and incentives we want to make in our program to increase our success. And then we will adopt a plan that we will be submitting to HUD. Moving to the specific city council budget process, we are requesting a recurring $160,000 in operating support and an increase in IT support due to our staffing increases. We are actually covering the IT costs for our new staff for Lurie Terrace with rent revenue at Lurie Terrace. Within the county mental health millage rebate, we are requesting $605,480 for mental health and tenant supportive services to go directly to our nonprofit partners, which includes Community Action Network, Peace Neighborhood Center, Avalon Housing, SOS, and Ozone House. We are requesting the balance of the $1.08 million to go toward capital projects. We are in the process of designing the sprinkler systems for Miller Manor, Baker, and Lurie Terrace. We have an engineer hired to do the design, and then we will have a RFP out to bid in the next couple of months. We're also conducting a capital needs assessment for Broadway to determine a scope of work to complete the renovations there, which have been ongoing. With this slide, I just wanted to highlight that we work with many additional community partners for a variety of mental health and supportive services at our sites, such as the VA, U of M School of Pharmacy, the Washtenaw County Community Mental Health, Food Gatherers, Michigan Works, Packard Community Clinic, and our newest partner is Huron Valley PACE. As we are entering into our second year of the affordable housing millage, this slide is just a reminder for the community of the guidelines that City Council adopted on how those funds would be prioritized and spent. The millage is for households that are zero income up to 60% of area median income. It includes all kinds of different housing related development costs up to 20% for resident supportive services. City Council has prioritized sustainability and permanently affordable units with the goal of socioeconomic diversity throughout the city and maximizing and leveraging other resources. The strategy includes creating an annual budget that includes housing commission projects, including city-owned properties, but also to develop a process for non-housing commission projects to apply for funding. I'm working with the County Office of Community Economic Development, as well as the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board, to develop an application process based on the city's adopted millage guidelines to ensure that investments are made for feasible projects with qualified developers. And as a reminder, the millage funds can be used for both capital projects and up to 20% for services to support the people living in developments where capital funds were used. And on the capital side, that's typically a one-time expenditure that's drawn out, at the beginning of a project until the development is complete. And then services are an ongoing operating expenditure that need to be included in the city's annual budget process. The HHSAB is sponsoring a 7-week educational series on topics that they've requested and that they think would help them to craft a good application process for the millage funds. They meet on the second Thursday of the month at 6:30 p.m. The meetings are open to the public, and right now they're held on Zoom. So if people are interested in attending any of these educational series, the website is listed on the slide across the bottom on how to participate. We also have any old meetings are available on online as well if people missed a previous presentation. And during the presentation, there's an opportunity for people to ask questions of the presenter. The fiscal 23 millage also includes a request for recurring funding for the 3 FTEs related to development, as well as the IT charges for those positions. And then there's also $400,000 for pre-development activities such as conducting surveys, environmental studies, or other related activities that are needed for developments. The bulk of the fiscal year 23 budget for the affordable housing millage includes both capital and service funding for 5 specific projects, including 350 South 5th, 353 South Main, 121 East Catherine, Hickory Way, and the Grove at Viridian. .350 South 5th is currently expected to be on the City Council agenda in March and April 2022 for PUD and supplemental regulations approval. After Council has approved that process, an RFP will be issued for a co-developer. And then in 2023, the design will need to be finalized, go through site plan approval process, and then financing will need to be secured before construction can start. At 415 West Washington, it's currently in the PUD and supplemental regulations process right now. We already issued a RFP for a co-developer for 121 East Catherine, and the Housing Commission Board approved a really interesting and exciting project from Avalon Housing and Art Space as co-developers. The next step is to finalize the design, get site plan approval, and secure the financing. We are also working with the DDA and city staff to coordinate the underground infrastructure needed for the site with the redesign the DDA is doing on Catherine Street this summer. And we have not yet selected a co-developer for 353 South Main. And here's a summary of the other city-owned sites that are in the pipeline and the next steps for each site. I don't have dates attached to them because we will get to them as the other projects start moving forward. Thank you very much for your time, and I am looking forward to answering any questions you may have about this presentation. Thank you.